Welcome to the Skagway Sim in the Blake Passage, the sailing home of the Bandit IF and the SLIFF Sailing School. Our videos are intended to help you take your basic sailing skills to a higher level by participating in organized racing. At our school, we do emphasize sailing and racing the Bandit IF, but the general principles we teach apply to any sailboat in Second Life. In this video, we dig into the rules governing the right-of-way, helping remove the mystery surrounding the art of the start. There are three major rules that come into play during the start, and these have to do with what is called right-of-way. You can think of these the same as yield signs and stop signs along a motorway and define the rules of the road during a race. For this first rule, we need to define two terms and make sure everyone is clear on the terms port tack and starboard tack. This shows a boat that is sailing on a port tack. The wind is coming from the left or port side of the boat, and you can see that the boom is pushed over to the right or starboard side of the boat. The tack is determined by the side of the boat from which the wind is blowing. In this next example, the wind is from the starboard side of the boat, and you'll see that the boom is pushed to the port side. Again, this boat is on a starboard tack. These two terms are important because the first right-of-way rule is when two boats on different tacks approach each other, the boat on starboard tack has the right-of-way. Now here we see two boats converging, both sailing fairly close to the wind. You see this quite a lot during the start as boats maneuver for position along the start line. The white boat is on port tack, the orange boat is on starboard tack and has the right-of-way. If both boats continue on their present course, the white boat won't be able to pass in front of the orange boat and still remain clear. Now the right-of-way boat is entitled to continue its present course, and it's up to the non-right-of-way boat to stay clear. Depending on the tactical situation, the white boat has two options. It can veer to the right and pass behind, or it can tack to parallel the right-of-way boat. In either case, it must accomplish its maneuver without causing the right-of-way boat to have to change its course. So our first rule of right-of-way dealt with boats approaching on different tacks, and we learned that the starboard tack boat shall have the right-of-way. Now we're going to discuss the rules that apply when boats on the same tack are approaching one another. This rule states that the leeward boat shall have right-of-way. This is quite a bit more complex than port starboard, and in order to understand it, let's start by defining three terms. We need to make sure we understand the terms windward, leeward, and overlap. Let's assume we're sailing the white boat. The wind is coming from the starboard or the right side. The side of our boat facing the wind is called the windward side, and the side of our boat away from the wind is called the leeward side. Now I'm going to mark the windward side in green and the leeward side in red. Remember, the rule states that the leeward boat shall have right-of-way. So our boat has right-of-way over boats on the windward side or in our green zone. However, we have to yield right-of-way to boats on our leeward side or in the red zone. Now there is a limitation to this windward-leeward rule, and that is called overlap. So let's imagine that you place the letter T over your boat. The top of the T is perpendicular, lies across the stern of your boat. The leg of the T runs from the stern through the bow and extends forward without limit. Now overlap exists when any part of another boat is forward of the line that passes through the stern of your boat. Here we can see that the orange boat is forward of the line through the stern of our boat, and we're considered to be overlapped. Now the orange boat is on our leeward side or in our red zone, and the orange boat has leeward right-of-way over our boat. Only the bow of the yellow boat is forward of the line through our stern. Now remember that overlap exists when any part of a boat is forward of this line. So we are in fact overlapped by the yellow boat, but it's on our windward side or in our green zone, and therefore does not have right-of-way over our boat. Each time you add another boat to the mix, you get overlapping layers of leeward windward right-of-way. So here we are now in the white boat, and we're overlapped on both sides. Take a moment to figure out the conditions of right-of-way, but just remember to apply the same T and red and green zones to each boat. The orange boat is leeward of the other two boats. Now this is how the red and green zones of the orange boat would appear. The white boat is overlapped to windward. You will see that the yellow boat is behind the T for the orange boat and would seem to be clear astern and not overlapped. However, the white boat, which is an intervening boat, is overlapped by the yellow boat, and this causes the overlap to extend from the orange boat to the yellow boat. Now this is how we see the zones from our boat. We are in fact overlapped on both sides. The orange boat is in our red zone and has right-of-way over us. The yellow boat is in our green zone and we have right-of-way over that boat. The skipper of the yellow boat sees this, and notice that he does consider the orange boat as in an overlap condition with his boat, since it is forward of his T. Both boats are in his red zone, and from his point of view, both have right-of-way over his boat. Now, in all of these situations, if you're a skipper of the right-of-way boat, you're required to maneuver so as to allow the other skippers time to react. You can't make a sudden turn into the other boat and then scream foul. Think it is sort of like flying lead in a formation of fighter aircraft. You don't suddenly turn into your wingman and not expect to scrape metal. So if possible, announce your intentions and then maneuver slowly enough for the other boats to react. In our previous example, the orange boat is in a great tactical position, particularly during the start phase. Now, why do I say that? Well, it's mostly due to the third rule of the start, and this rule is somewhat specific to the start. It basically says that a right-of-way boat is not required to allow a non-right-of-way boat to have room to pass through the start gate. Now, you'll hear racers talk about room at the mark or water at the mark. These terms do apply in other parts of the race, and we'll discuss that later, but they do not apply during the start. There is no requirement to allow room at the mark. So let's see how that might come into play in the situation we previously discussed. We already know that the orange boat has the right-of-way. The skipper of the orange boat is sailing in such a manner that he will just barely clear the green buoy which marks the starboard end of the start line. Now remember, he doesn't have to allow either boat room to pass through the start gate. In fact, at this point, his whole strategy is to brush off both boats to the side and make them circle back around to pass through the start gate. The rules we're using during our videos are basically the same rules that are used by the International Sailing Federation, but modified for the constraints of Second Life sailing. Now we're trying to keep the SLIFF rules as simple as possible while still maintaining the basic intent of the sailing rules. Our next video goes into great detail explaining the issue of barging at the start in Second Life sailing. Sailing is great fun. Racing is great fun. We hope you'll come down and share it with us. We welcome your comments and hope to see you at the start line. Well, I just couldn't resist the hat. I guess I have to have a little bit of fun. Thanks for watching. Until next time, fair winds, calm seas.
Happy trails to you until